So, hello and welcome to my talk, my teacher's expertise about how to create clever math exercises, including mathematical formulae for your textbooks. My name is Dr. Michael Maurer. I'm CEO and co-founder of eSquirrel, and I'm also co-author of the largest summary or largest collection of the math school leaving certificate for quiz questions for this exam. So today I'd like to give you a teacher's view on how to use math with the eSchool app according to your textbook, not only for high school leaving certificate exams, but also for lower level mathematics. So let's start and get into it. For those who don't know eSchool, I'll at the beginning just explain to you in 4 or 5 minutes what eSchool is and what eSchool can do for you. And then we will go straight into the mathematical part. I will show you how we've already realized mathematical questions with eSchool from easy to very complicated. And then I will show you how to create those on your own. So what eSchool does, eSchool interweaves your book content with digital exercises. It's a teaching and learning companion for the whole school year in the form of an entertaining quiz app that ensures long-term learning success. This is if you wanted to describe eSchool with one sentence. So you have a textbook, and instead of having an old school exercise book, you have the eSchool app where you can learn, where you can train, where you can compete and outsmart your colleagues, where teachers can give homework and so on. So eSchool becomes a learning success because of two parts. On the one hand, teachers like to use it. It saves them time. They can automatically evaluate the learning progress. And the second thing is also very motivating for students. Students like to learn with eSchool. It's entertaining, and through several gamification elements, it keeps them motivated. A very interesting or very substantial realization of eSchool is the technical implementation of it. You won't see that there is any technical stuff behind it because it's so transparent to the user. eSchool is completely available offline, meaning that you don't need any Wi-Fi connection, you don't need any internet connection to use eSchool. You just download the app once, install the course, and then you can learn whenever you want without needing any Wi-Fi or internet connection. What can eSchool do for students? I already mentioned some of those parts, but as an additional example, you have the ebook always with you. You can, for every question, look up the corresponding page in the ebook. You can duel with classmates. You can raise your hand digitally, meaning you can ask questions to your exercises that you have where you don't understand something to get help from your teacher. You have long-term achievements. You don't just learn once, but you repeat it in efficient spaced time repetitions so that you remember the knowledge in the long term. And you also, for example, have self-paced learning. So eSchool enables students to learn at their own pace. If they already know more, they can go ahead. If they need to repeat the same things over again, they can also freely do so. And of course, as I already mentioned, and that's for the implementation and for the realization of a learning progress, this offline availability is really, really important. I can't stress this enough. I can't leave you out the benefits for teachers either. Of course, teachers see the learning analytics of their students and of the whole class. So they see where is their whole class already good at, where do they still need help, so that they can really help them where needed. But there is also an automatic homework evaluation, for example, so they really see also for individual students what they already can do and what not. With eSchool, you can, of course, as I mentioned, raise your hand digitally, so the teacher can answer the questions either per email, through the platform, or just via in the classroom when they're back again, or with email, for example. eSquirrel is also allows to print worksheets, so it bridges the gap back into the real world, so to say. You can learn digitally, but you can also print worksheets that students can fill out on a paper. And last but not least, you can create quizzes, also called tests, where you can where then you can really track the progress of the students and see their learning status at a specific point in time. eSchool is available on all platforms, on smartphone, tablet, and web, on Android, iOS, also on older smartphones. We make it accessible for everybody that they can use eSchool on whatever device they like. So let's get into the mathematics. That's not mathematics quite yet, but you see here already examples of different question types. Here are examples with languages. We will get into math in a second, but you already see there, eSchool is a lot more than just multiple choice questions. You can match pairs. You can have fill in the gaps. You also can have open question types, for example. So there's really a lot of different question types that you can use. That's also important for math. Math is also more than just asking true or false questions. For every question, you can add a video, you can add audio, perhaps not so important for mathematics, even though you could also, some people are more the auditive type, they can still listen to some explanations, for example. And of course, you can also use algebra. And for using algebra, for using mathematical formulae, you can use everything that you can type in a LaTeX typescript. For those of you who are familiar with mathematical typesetting, you probably know that, but I will show you later on how easy that is. So, what can mathematics do for you with eSchool? On the right-hand side, you already see an example of it. You see polynomials, and you see fractions, you see square roots, you see exponents. So it's just a little glimpse in what's possible to do. You can, of course, start with easy arithmetical exercises, but also complex ones. You can have explanation exercises, closes, so fill in the gaps, where you, for example, need the students to explain the Pythagorean theorem, for example. You can have comprehension exercises, interpretation, modeling, argumentational exercises. So all this is possible with the different question types with eSchool. As I already mentioned before, you can input all mathematical formulae with LaTeX. And when we create the courses ourselves, it's important that 60 to 90% of all tasks are solvable directly on the smartphone without pen and paper. This, of course, depends on the exam you're preparing for, on the underlying book. If it's more question types where you need to draw things, for example, or where you really get into the calculational depth. But as the didactics and of mathematics evolves, it's more about understanding what you're actually doing than just calculating things. Calculating, as mathematicians proudly say often, it's for computers, and mathematicians don't calculate, they do math. So in order to do, like, for example, if you have this question here that you see on the screen where it says to match the different pairs, you don't really need pen and paper. You can do this in your head. And these are question types that students really like to do on their smartphone because they don't need any additional paper or any additional tools to solve them. Having said that, Of course, sometimes it's necessary to calculate, sometimes it's necessary to use pen and paper, but we group those together for those ones that need pen and paper and for those that don't. In a future version of eSquirrel, we will also notify the user before starting a learning unit if they can do this very easily on their smartphone, or if they will use pen and paper for that. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the primary level. Here you get some examples. The examples are from real courses that we have in German, but I don't think that that's a problem here because mathematics is an international language, so you will very easily understand what's going on here. On the left picture, you see some numbers in ascending order, and you want to sort them out where there is a number missing. So for example, you have 33, 35, 36. You already see there in the first example, 34 is missing. So you would put this into the trash can, for example. The next exercise is also a different exercise type. It's fill in the gap, where you just need to complete the questions here. So 40, 39, 38, and so on. The third question wants you to put 34 into tens and ones. So we have 3 tens and 4 ones for 31, for example. And the last question is to match the correct pairs, just to find the calculations that are all in a similar variety. So you here see elimination questions. So put something into the trash can. You see question type of fill in the gaps with 3 gaps, then with 2 gaps, and then also matching the pairs. And of course, for primary level, it's very important to make this, to make the font quite large, and to also engage them with motivational pictures and images. So you can quite nicely do that. It's very easy also to put in here images that sometimes they can be for really that you need the picture to answer them. If you have a graph, for example, where you need to find the slope of a curve or so. But of course, also just to make it prettier and make it nicer, you can do this. And you can choose the color yourself, you can choose the pictures yourself, so you can really create this questions that they fit to your textbook. Okay, so now move on to secondary level 1. I know that in all countries these levels differ from where is secondary level 1, secondary level 2, and so on. But so secondary level 1, we are around with kids from 10 to 14 years old. And you see, first thing you see, the font is smaller. Of course, you need to be able to put in a little bit more content. And so also let's go through the different question types. With the left question, we see a multiple choice question, for example. That's just simple, plain and ordinary subtraction. You also see the motivational picture. It's a school bag, and the quest says at the beginning, hey, welcome back to school. Happy to have you here. Let's repeat what you learned in primary school, for example. So this is a typical question you might think of that comes into your mind when you think of, okay, learning mathematics with an app. It's probably something like that. But when you go to the right, you see it's so much more. Already at the second picture, it wants you to translate the symbols like equality, less than, greater than. And so you can also train something like that, like symbols, for example. Third question is an understanding exercise. It says, okay, every natural number has a successor and a predecessor. The number 5, the predecessor of the number 5 is 4, and the successor of this number is then 6, for example. And you have 2 fill in the gaps, 2 gaps, and you need to fill them out. It's the same question type as for primary level, but used in a more complicated way. And the fourth question now is, okay, you have the picture, you have a circle and a sector, and you need to describe with words what's going on there. So this is the new type also of math learning. It's so much more than just having some calculations, and you can do this on even a smartphone app to explain what's going on this picture. Now you might think, okay, it must be very complicated to create a question like this. I need to have programming skills, or I need a software engineer to do that, and that's not the case at all. We have such an easy authoring tool. I will show you in the live demo, and you will see and realize how actually easy it is to create questions like that. Everybody who knows to work with a Word document, it will be able also to create these questions with eSchool. And now let's move on to the secondary level 2. So that's typically students from 15 to 18 or 19-year-olds. And there you already see, okay, it's getting more complicated. You also see more mathematical symbols. You see more sophisticated graphs, for example. And just let's go them through very quickly as well. So here on the left-hand side, you have a fill-in-the-gap question, but it's a little bit different. That's another form that we haven't seen so far. There are 2 gaps, and there are solutions that only fit into the first gap, and then there are other solutions that only fit into the second gap, where you see with the 2 shades of blue where to fill them in. Second question, typical multiple choice question, where you see mathematical formulae also in the answers. Third one is match the pairs, where you can also have mathematical symbols in the answers and can drag and drop them around. And in the fourth, you have an open question, also new question type, where you need to look at the picture and then type in a number or do some easy calculation. Of course, you can, if you are on your smartphone, you can use your smartphone calculator for easy calculation. So this still counts as no pen and paper, for example. And you might say, okay, the picture is quite small. No problem. You just click on it. It enlarges, and you can also zoom into it then. So yeah, that you are able to answer the question with all help that's available to you. You see the question mark already on the right upper corner. You've probably noticed already. So if you answer the question and still you don't really know how to come to the solution, on the first hand, eSquirrel tells you the solution after 2 tries. So when you tried twice unsuccessfully, eSquirrel will tell you what's the solution. This can help you, but still you might not really understand why actually this solution. And with the question mark, you can either ask a question to your teacher, that's like raising your hand digitally, yeah? So asking why does this work like this? And the cool thing is students can do this at home as well. So if you give something like that as a homework, students can then, if they don't know their way around, they can ask you, and you can explain it as a teacher in the following lesson. And another availability, if you click on the question mark, there is the possibility to add an explainer video that you can watch that explains you the question in detail. And actually with eSchool, we created a lot of these explainer videos. I will show you in the next slides. So here are some more examples of how a whole eSquirrel course can look like. You have different chapters with different colors, and then that's the name of linear functions, for example, power functions, linear optimization, and so on. Here to give you more ideas of what you can do, for example, that's for the school leaving certificate, so that 18 or 19 year old students take, for example, in Austria. But you can do any any language and any level with it, but just to give you this as an example. Here, the competence you want to learn is to understand and use the definite integral as an oriented area, for example. The image to it, and then the different integrals that you can choose as an explanation of how to calculate the area in this curve, for example. Another example, sorry, is you have this polynomial, and you need to choose both polynomials that are equivalent to the polynomial above, for example. And what you already see here is the symbol with the explainer video. So if you need some more help, you get an explainer video that we did that in cooperation with Matago. Matago made, I think, more than 10,000 explainer videos in the whole, and there are around 6,000, I think, explainer videos also on the eSquirrel platform for that. So for every question, there is an explainer video. You can understand sets like natural numbers, integers, rational numbers, real numbers, complex numbers, for example. Here you would need to check out all the numbers that are rational numbers, for example. Or another example, you need to understand, you need to find which statements are true about natural numbers. Yeah, you see it's quite, you can do a lot of things. You can differentiate and apply absolute and relative changes, for example, with eSquirrel. And here you get a semi-open question. So the beginning of the answer is already there. You just need to find the rest of it, so to say. You can apply simple rules of integration, power rule, addition rule, multiplication. Yeah, so there's a really lot of examples. You can also then, after our digital education week, you will be able to watch the video again, and also you will be able to access our slides to get some inspiration on which exercises you can create and how you can create them. So I won't go through them in all the details. That's just really for you to get some inspiration also afterwards. So I just like to emphasize shortly what we did with this Austrian school leaving or certificate, the so-called Math Matura. The eSchool course we did for that, it allows you to check your knowledge, but also gives you an orientation for the curriculum, as well as for the students, but also for the teachers. It covers 7 out of 8 question formats completely. So you, in an app, in the eSchool app, you get the same questions as you get on a pen and paper exam. 7 out of 8 question formats. So we do open questions, semi-open question, closes, multiple choice questions. There are a lot of different types. There are 2 out of 5, 1 out of 5, and X out of 5. So an arbitrary number. And that's also match to pairs. You need to match. You have a choice of 6 different answers, and you need to match them to 4 possibilities. So of course, here it's important that the underlying exam already is in such a form, but with standardized math tests and math exams that are getting more and more popular. This is also very easy to migrate this or to copy this for other countries as well. You can train 4 different competences. You can train modeling and transferring, operations and use of technology, interpretation and documentation, arguing and communication. So what I want to tell you with that is it's so much more than just calculating 7 plus 9 equals something. With the course's entire teaching teams, we hold the overview of a class's learning progress. So it's not only for one teacher, several teachers can use it. It's very suitable to give it as a homework, and it gives students the necessary repetitions that they need to retain knowledge for the long run. That have been examples with what we've already prepared, but of course the same is true also for your material that you and your publishing house can do with eSquirrel as well. So let's get to the live demo. You see here now my screen. On the left-hand side, I will switch to the authors tool of eSquirrel, and on the right-hand side, you see my smartphone. So what I'd like you to show, first is such an math course that I've been talking about now. So, for example, this one. You see different topics here. We start with algebra, for example. You see the question I showed you a screenshot before. So which of these numbers are rational numbers, for example? So -4/3, -3.4 times 10 to the third. And I guess that's about it. Let's check. Yeah, that's right. And if I hadn't known that, I would be able to see the explainer video to that. So for the next question, you can also say, okay, I don't know, I want to watch the video right away. So you can go here to watch the video, then it loads, and you are able to watch it and see that there is an explanation. I guess you don't hear the explanation right now through the video, but yeah, you have an explanation to it, and the correct answers will be explained. And what are the advantages of these explainer videos? You can stop them, you can watch them at your own pace, you can rewatch them as often as you like. And we also had already a tutorial about explainer videos, how they can be used with eSchool, and there will also be another one later today about using explainer videos for anything actually with eSchool. The explainer videos are the only things that are not offline available, as they should not be needed to solve an example. It's just really for explaining things, but not for needing them to use to solve an example. So let's go to something else. Let's go to something perhaps more complicated. Let's see what's there at the end, like sine and cosine, for example. You see here the graphs. You can zoom into them. You can really look how they are. You can of course also turn the smartphone, and yeah, then you have the answers to them. And there again, you can watch a video. So for every single exercise we have an explainer video in cooperation with Matago. They're high quality, and one of our jewels, I would say, that we have in our catalog. So that's about to give you a glimpse of what's possible. Now I'd like to show you how to create these questions by yourself. So for example, let's start with this example here, and we'd like to make that ourselves. So how do we do that? We go on eSquirrel.com, log into the website. When you log in, you will first land at teacher, but that you can very easily switch to author. And once you switched to author, you see here all your courses. I've created this one, Create Clever Math Exercises, including formula for your books. And there I already created a chapter and a quest. And now we go into this quest. As with eSquirrel, an eSquirrel course just consists of chapters, and every chapter consists of quests. And the quest can consist of 10 questions. So it's very, very simple and very effective. And let's go and create a new question. And let's try to make this ourselves. So here you see the authoring tool. Here you see, okay, we're already at the third question. Perhaps it's not so clever. Let's start with the first one. I don't want to lose this, so I just say duplicate question. So I get the fourth question. a new one, and I can just delete everything that's here and start from new. So you see here 8 different question types, starting with a multiple choice question. You always see here like how this looks like. If you said, okay, I want to do an elimination question, that would look like this. If you want to do a true or false question, that would look like this, for example. But we want to create a multiple choice question. So we choose the multiple choice format, and we get into the question text. So the question text is just what's written above. So as we're doing this in English, we can probably translate it. It's choose both negative real numbers. Okay, so that's very easy, no math needed there. But let's see now how to put in the answers. So you can do that. You see here this mathematical symbol, and if you click on it, you get an explanation for that you need to write math between backslash and a parenthesis, and then a backslash, and you close the parentheses. And everything you write inside of there needs to be a LaTeX expression. And you can see, you can click here on this link, and this link opens here this page where you can choose, try out what you want to do. So for example, if you want to do a matrix, let's say, you can just here select, okay, I want to do a matrix, I want to do a I think I need to reload this page. Yes, so I want to do a matrix, for example. I choose a 3x3 matrix, should look like this, and then I can copy the code into that and see how it looks like here. Of course, we have here a little bit of the explanation aside. So this is then this is the LaTeX code that's generated. You can see it here how it looks like, and then you can just copy and paste this here between the backslash and the brackets. So let's do this here. We want to write -2 to the so a number with a lot of ones. So you would just type it like this, -2, and then this dash, curly brackets, and then you put in the number of ones you need. And you already see down here, it renders it, how it would look like also if you just typed it here. But we need this down here as an answer, so we just put this here as an answer, add it, and you see it automatically how it would render as a mathematical formulae. So the next one is -√8. Of course, I know now how to use LaTeX, so I can just type this out of my head. But if you're not familiar with LaTeX, you just go here, find in the catalog the correct symbol you need. So you can look through here to find a square root symbol, and then you can create your equation like you need it. So let's have a look here. Here's the square root. I will just delete this. So now we have nothing. We use the square root here, and here's the square root of x. You see here to the right how this looks like, and you put in an 8, and you put in then just a minus sign before. And if you click here and compile again, okay, you see how this looks in LaTeX. So if you're satisfied with it, you just copy and paste it here as an answer. And the only thing I forgot is to need to put in the backslash and the opening and closing parentheses in order for you to render it correctly. So we can just put in here the rest quite easily right now. It's -3 to the power of 4 and closed. We have pi over 2. Okay, so here we've got something new. We've got a fraction. Okay, so how do fractions work? Here we can also find our fractions. So here you have the catalog of symbols. Here you have different arrows, for example. You have underlying, overlying arrows, brackets, and so on. Here you have integral signs, the square root we found, limits, sine, logarithms, and so on, powers, everything you need. Here you have quite special symbols. Here you have operators like plus, minus, and or, less than, greater than, and so on. And yeah, here you can use, for example, could use something like this as a matrix. So you can also create your math symbols like this, like a matrix. But the most elegant style to do a fraction is just to use here the command frac. You have two curly brackets, and we want to put in here pi. So we choose pi here, for example, like that. And then we want to have it over 2. So we just type in 2. And if you click on compile, you see, okay, that's exactly what we need. So we just backslash, paste it here, backslash, and closing parenthesis, and we have it. So the last one I'd like to do with you is also here, the last number. So what we need to do, same spiel, -1. This dot is called a C dot. For those familiar with LaTeX, you need a square root and you need into type -4. And then you see it renders exactly like that. And of course, you can also do this with here the equations editor. You can also use any other editor actually you like. This is not something that we developed. It's an independent platform, but we find it quite useful to use with our symbol and quite self-explanatory. But of course, anything else, any other tool that helps you create this formulae is totally acceptable as well. You just need to put them in these backslash and parentheses. So if you click here, if you want to change something, you can do this as well. If you say, okay, there's one too many, for example, you do it like that. So it automatically changes the rendering between how it looks like and between the underlying text. Okay, so now we still need to figure out which answers are correct, actually. We want to choose both negative real numbers. So let's see, we have here -2 to an odd number. That's negative. We have minus the square root of 8. That's negative and a real number. We have -3 to the 4th, so times an even number, so that's the not negative. We have pi over 2, that's also not negative. And here we have the square root of -4, that's not a real number, that would be an imaginary one, so we don't choose it. We can choose the first two answers. Yeah, here it's worth 1 acorn, but we can say, okay, it's a little bit more difficult, so we could also give them 2 or 3 acorns. So now we've done all that work, and we still need to get this in the app. And you will see how easy it is. I just create a preview here. By creating a preview, it sends what I just did onto the app. So I will just check in the eSquirrel platform, in the eSquirrel app. I will check to find this course, and I need to refresh, or it refreshes automatically, it depends. And there we have already created clever math exercises, and I have here this math quest, and take a look. That's exactly what we just did before. That's exactly what we've seen before in the other video. So it's very easy. We did this with explaining. I think it took us 10 minutes, but if you already know how to do it, it's very quickly. It's almost as quickly as writing it on paper. What you see here as well, when I go back to how we authored this question, we see here, okay, we put in the both correct answers at the beginning. Here they are in a different order, of course, so they are always shuffled each time you load the question, or you see the question there in a random order, which is very important, that you just don't always take the first and the second one, for example. Of course, so when you type it, it's actually even easier than typing it, or than writing in a Word document, because when you create these exercises yourself, and everybody who's already done that will know that, if you create these exercises yourself, you always need to think, where do I put my correct answers? Is it the first or the second? Can it be always the first, or is it the fourth, and so on? So that's just an easy side effect, or nice side effect that comes with eSquirrel, that you just have this random order automatically. You just start by putting in the correct answers, check them, and then you put in some distractors, some answers that are not correct. Okay, here I prepared some more questions for you, just to also show you. Here would be a matrix, for example, and there if you go to the next question, you also see, okay, this is then how the matrix looks like in the app. Third question is empty, okay, and the fourth question is the ones we duplicated before. So, for example, if you do which of the following integrals are correct, then you already would see here. So you can also write LaTeX into the question type. So if we want to say which of the following integrals, int for integral, f of x dx, are correct, then you already see how that's rendered in there. And we put already the first in as a question, as an answer, and we can put in that as an answer as well. And in this case, both answers would be correct, for example. So you can have this in the question text, but also in the answers, of course. So yeah, let's create a preview again in order to show you this. So the preview deletes the previous one. You then get the update in the app. That's the question we did before. That's the matrix. That's the empty question. And that's now just the integral we just solved right now. You also see here a gap. This is because we did a gap in here in the question itself. So you can also format it like you want. You have here some space. One important thing, though, with eSquirrel is that it limits your question text and your answer text, so that it remains being well displayed on a smartphone, on a smaller device as well. But still, you can create complicated exercises with it, as I've just shown you, easy ones, complicated as you like. When we go back to the easy math, you can insert questions here, images, for example, here, or as I already said, audios. For the explainer videos, it's very simple. You just need a YouTube or a Vimeo link. You just put it here, save it, and the next time you make a preview, you would already see that in the app. Okay. That's as far as I'd like to go for now for creating the math formally with eSquirrel. What we did now, everybody can do. So you don't need to be a publishing house. You can be a teacher, but you also don't need to be a teacher. You can be a student. You can be anyone. That's completely for free. Just log into eSquirrel.com and create your exercises. At the beginning, you will add chapters, you will add quests. You can also then change the color of the quest if you don't like it, for example. And then you make the previews, you look at them on your smartphone, and if you're happy with that, you release it, and then in the teacher's portal, you will find your own course, and you can invite your own students. If you think you created a really, really nice course that everybody should use, and that also possibly could be made money from because it's so good and people want to buy it, like all the other courses on our platform, then just contact us, write us a short email. We will look at it. Our editors will have a look at it, see if the quality is fine, and then we could also transfer it to our store and give you a profit share of that. The same, of course, is also true for publishers. So if you have a book that needs a really good and well thought out digital companion, contact us, and we can also create these exercises for you. That's another main point I want you to take away. You're not alone. We can help you if you need to create these exercises for your textbook as a publisher. Just contact us. Our authors are also there that can create these exercises for you. Okay, so that much for the live demo. To wrap up a little bit and give you a small outlook, eSquirrel can be used in multiple educational scenarios. It can be used for practicing and repeating during class. It's like, okay, students, take out your smartphones. We will now repeat that. There are often students work in pairs, for example, or they can also learn individually. They can explain it to each other, for example. But it's also useful for self-sufficient learning so that they can learn at their own pace. Students can use eSquirrel to practice and repeat at home, to use it as a homework tool. eSquirrel can be used for replacement lessons when you don't really know where the other teacher ended their lessons. Then you can get onto it very quickly. As a teacher, you can unlock quests, so to really have it individually adapted to your use case. You can exclude a quest that you don't want to make for the students to take yet. eSquirrel is a nice tool for class participation. So, as I already mentioned, students can ask questions via the app that can be answered during the class. It's for tracking the learning progress of individual students, but also for the entire class. It can be used for tests and quizzes. So if you really want to see, okay, it's fine that the students learn the whole school year with that, but I also want to know, okay, what you actually know now. Then you can create a test with it that you can also print out. And of course, the platform can also be used as a grading companion. As a teacher, you know, how did my students do the homework? Did they do it on time? How well did they do it? Did they participate in class? How much progress did they make overall, for example? So it's also nice guide and a companion for your grading, actually, that you can also justify your grade very easily afterwards. Here are some of our partners. We partner with almost all Austrian and German textbook publishers, so we'd like to welcome you as well on our slide. That's just a small snapshot of our partners. We always try to take different ones each time to give you, to really be a neutral partner for all the educational publishers that work with us. We got several awards and distinctions. We were finalists of the Startups World Cup Austria in the category of Future Work in EdTech just this May, and we also won the Go Silicon Valley initiative, for example. Therefore, we are recommended by several ministries of education, both in Germany and in Austria. Just to give you a quick look out on our growth and on our KPIs, with eSchool there have been created 350,000 questions or exercises that have been answered 22 million times. It's really quite a lot. We have our 90 authors that help you in creating content you need. We have 80,000 registered teachers and students, where 95% are still in Austria, so it's a huge potential to grow outside, also outside. eSchool is used in 2,500 schools, and as you see here with our registered and verified users, also after the school closings, we had a huge rise in our users. In the first 3 days after the school closings, we had as many new users as in the 3 months when school started the fall before. And in these 3 days, we weren't able to do any advertising or any communication, so that you really see how many people already knew it and then realized, okay, now it's a good time to start using and start learning with eSchool. Meanwhile, we also have top ratings in the app stores, and that's very amazing, I think, because this is an app that students need to use for their homework. So they're sometimes forced to do that by their teachers, of course. They don't have any other chance. So many other apps are not rated very well in the app stores. But here, even though the students have to learn with eSchool, they still like it because it's entertaining and fun and helps them in achieving good grades at school. So the takeaways from this lesson is twofold. On the one hand, you have with eSchool your complete digital solution ready to use right now. It's GDPR compliant, it's available offline, it saves you costs of creating your own platform and also minimizes risks, because you know with eSchool you have already something there that has a market fit that works with students and with teachers and with publishers as well. And from this lesson, you can use eSquirrel for math in a sophisticated way from primary school up to university, also for the entrance exam, for the studies of medicine, for example. You can use eSquirrel no matter how hard or easy the questions are. eSquirrel allows you to present all mathematical areas in a meaningful and precise way. On my slide, I also have the 10% welcome discount for eSchool.publish. So if you decide to also publish your course in our store, you get a 10% off for new customers, and you get an additional 10% off if you complete the course for the Digital Education Week. You find the link online and the registration code and the explanation how to do that. If you complete a quest until tomorrow afternoon, you will be eligible also for this discount. So I hope we will digitally enhance your books together. We're there for you. If you need some more information, don't hesitate to contact